Welcome to the Catholic Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Matt Pinto. We live in two worlds. We live in the world of the sacred. We love our faith, but most of us are also living in the world of the secular. And even if you work in the church or in ministry, you're engaging the world of the secular. And what that creates is at times a tension. How do we live in the world, be in the world, but not of the world? How do we balance the sacred and the secular? Specifically in the area of business, business has got to be a top 5 human engagement. Most of us work in business most days. So this is why I'm focusing this podcast in particular on the dual worlds of faith and business, specifically entrepreneurship. As Catholics, we affirm the good. We believe that God created the world good. Yes, it's bent, it's marred by sin, but in the beginning it was very good. And as a Catholic, I can extrapolate and conclude, therefore, the things of the world, including business, can be very, very good. And that's why we're going to spend some time on this today. Specifically, our topic today is on messaging. And I would offer that all of you are engaged in messaging, whether you know it or not. You're going to go home, you're going to say hello to your spouse, and you're engaged in messaging. You're going to, have your kids clean up their room, you're engaged in messaging. And you're going to be selling your product, whether it's the gospel, maybe sell is not the right word there, but presenting the gospel, or selling your business product. It's all rooted in messaging. So I'm delighted to have with me today Margie McCarthy. She's the founder, she's the president of McCarthy Messaging. She's based in the regional Denver area. Her company, McCarthy Messaging, focuses on the healthcare and education worlds, but also is beginning to work a little bit in the financial world. And I think from some conversations, maybe eventually moving into aspects of the faith world. But Margie, we're here today, first and foremost, to say hello, and delighted that you're with me. And
Hi, Matt.
Yeah, I'm really, really delighted. So Margie, McCarthy Messaging and you yourself over these 30 or so years in doing this work, you have become expert at meeting with businesses, distilling down who they are, their unique selling propositions, their ethos, and developing messaging for them. Let me just kind of ask you a personal question, like, what attracted you to this field X number of years ago? Why are you someone who specializes and maybe is seemingly as gifted in messaging versus whatever else the case may be? What was it about this field that attracted you, and why do you think you're good at it?
Yeah. I guess going way, way back, I was, one of those English and history people as opposed to heavy duty math people. So language, words, just naturally attracted me. And, that's where I did better in school. I was a journalism major. And when I got out, I thought, well, what else can I do with this skill? And I landed in the marketing and PR world. And then, of course, as you said, messaging is sort of a subset of that bubbled up over time.
So, Margie, again, some people listening to it, they may be working in ministry. They may actually be pastors and pastoral leaders. And so maybe they're tempted to turn off this particular podcast because they might not think it's for them. So let's start with the most basic question. What is messaging and why is it important?
Yeah, it's important for everybody, no matter your industry, no matter your line of work. And the reason for that, it's the core of your story. And everybody needs to be able to tell an engaging story that attracts people, attracts customers, and that really gets across what are you doing that's so special, and what are you doing that's going to change your customers' lives or change the world.
And you would contend that, Matt, depending on the product, literally the messaging might be the difference between life and death. In the Catholic context, we would say it literally might be the difference between salvation or not. So You would offer, I presume, that this is pretty high stakes at times, at least, and maybe more often than we think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think for the reason that you're saying, whether you are working in the faith world and you are trying to, you first have to attract souls before you can share the good news. In the business world, you first have to attract people that you can talk to. You have to sort of, hook them with that story, but it's not, a manufactured, manipulative kind of thing. It's you got to hook them with genuinely, authentically what's real, what's differentiating about your business.
Margie, what makes for a good message? What are the characteristics? Are there immutable laws? Are there truths that, Matt, we almost always try and take our clients, or if someone's listening doing their own messaging, what are some of the things that you think they really need to pursue?
Yeah, I think there are three things that make for a stellar message. The first thing is it has to be clear and compelling. Again, no matter the industry, no matter the field, the walk of life, to be clear and compelling is number one. Number two is, I mentioned, authentic. It can't be somebody else's message that you admire and you just sort of lift it and try to apply it and use it yourselves. It will not come across the same way. Number three, I would say, and this is the most important point, it has to be distinctive. It has to be very clear on how you are different from all the other businesses that they could be engaging with.
I love those. Clarity, authenticity, distinctive. Margie, when I look at like the TV shows from the 1950s, even the humor, it just seemed so much more basic and, with your and my modern minds now, kind of easy. Like maybe messaging, the clarity, the authenticity, the distinctiveness is harder to break through nowadays. Is it more difficult now for messaging than in the past, or is it maybe easier for some strange reason? I mean, has your work gotten harder, or is it getting easier?
I think our work has gotten harder. It just seems faster. It seems more voluminous. And for an organization to be able to break through with their message, you really have to fine tune it. You really have to sharpen it.
You and I had a really rich, and it was really enjoyable, maybe a month ago, pre-interview, and we went for an hour, and I thought we could easily go for another hour. We were kind of having fun talking about these principles. You used a phrase then, you said that much lesser products can succeed with better messaging, and conversely, much better products cannot succeed. Can you comment on that?
Yes. So we have worked with organizations who have started out on their journey with us saying, well, it's this company over here. That's really our message. Those are all the things we do, only we do them so much better. So I think we should be saying this and saying that. I think we all know that life isn't necessarily fair. And there can be companies out there that are lesser organizations, and that maybe it's the quality of the service they provide. Maybe it's the way that they treat their customers, and yet they may do well out there in the world. And a lot of times what we see is that they have packaged themselves better, and, therefore have that momentum to kind of fly, faster and further. While that can be frustrating for companies that feel like, we do this, but we do it so much better, I would say then maybe you need to look inward and, really work on your story. And just because that other company has a tighter, better, more impactful story doesn't mean that you can't come up with your own. It has to have your fingerprints on it. It needs to be unique, and you can do it too. But yes, that is the sad fact of the matter, is that sometimes companies do well just because they've packaged it better.
Another phrase that you used was message first. What does this mean?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a phrase that's unique to us, honestly. What are you trying to convey here? What are you all about? Why is what you're offering the world, better or different? And no matter what we're doing, if you put that message first, you're going to be much more successful. We are much more successful because we kind of push that with clients, because that's messaging that they can take and, reuse and spread throughout their organization.
You and I are here today talking about messaging. What is the consequence if a company doesn't have precise internal and external messaging? What's going to happen if they don't have clear messaging?
I think the biggest impact, and really the most unfortunate impact, is that fewer people will understand what you have to offer. Fewer people will, engage with you. Fewer people will, buy your product or service. And that's, to me, the saddest thing, is just that inability to, to help customers or to help the world.
Sure. I mean, how many times in your life and in my life have we seen something beautiful and said, man, people need to know about this.
Mm-hmm.
They need to see this. So, why would it not be true at the eminently pragmatic level of a company's mission or a church's mission or a ministry's mission? What are the bare minimums that either a big corporation or a small ministry and everything in between, what are the bare minimums that you think they need in their communication plan or their messaging?
I would say the bare minimum, if you don't have a big budget or don't have a team, would be just to invest your time in something that sounds maybe too simple, but I would start there. And that is, what do you do? Answer that question to, what does your organization do? Just by starting there and honing that message, you're going to be able to answer a lot of questions for people, and you're going to get people on the same page internally with your business.
I remember you saying that this is hard work. Now, I know for the client or for the company that does it itself, it's hard work. Why is it hard work, and sort of why can most messages not be developed in 45 minutes? Or using ChatGPT.
It's not about superficial answers. It's not about a bunch of jargon that, you probably throw around regularly. You have to rid yourself of that and really honestly answer some of the most common questions that an outsider might have about your business. And you have to answer them in a way that's clear. You have to answer them in a way that's authentic to you. And then you have to answer it in a way that really highlights what distinguishes you from the competition. That's harder than it sounds.
Okay. Why do they have to dig deep? Don't they already know kind of who their company is and what they do?
Yes, but the way they're telling that story oftentimes isn't working.
Okay.
And when I say dig deep, I want to give credit to all the organizations that, out there that might be struggling with their message. I would say to you that it is within you. It might be buried, but it is within you. Mm-hmm. Because what a firm like ours does is we come in and, we have that benefit of being sort of an objective outsider. But the first thing we're going to do beyond, reading about your background and familiarizing ourselves with our organization, the first thing we're going to do is sit down with your leaders, with your subject matter experts, and interview them in a way, very deep interviewing, but that draws out of them, these things that make the organization special. And we're going to get to the heart of the matter. So that's what I mean by digging deep. And that's also, you had mentioned, why is this hard work? Mm-hmm. Because it's really about pulling things out of people and then analyzing, the trends, analyzing, what we're hearing over and over, mm-hmm. to really spot those trends and themes that seem unique to them.
Can a company do this themselves? And if so, what type of person spearheading it within that company? What is the DNA makeup, or approach of that person? If they're going to do it themselves, that can make it happen they can do it themselves.
You don't have to have someone from the outside. You have to be willing to really dig around with folks. I think you have to be an analytical sort of person. And that's something I'd want to emphasize. This isn't like a wordsmithing exercise. Mm-hmm. It's really more of an analytical, really thinking about things you're hearing and separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, separating out those pieces of the story that just aren't serving the organization well from those things that really seem to light up in terms of, this is really us. Boy, we really do offer this uniquely. This is powerful language, and it's not language that I see out there, throughout the whole industry. That'd be some of my tips, I guess, for an organization that really wanted to tackle this themselves.
Sure. And would that be the deficiency of ChatGPT, even probably acknowledging that it can play maybe some role of some sort, but why can't someone just do this with ChatGPT?
Because it's generic.
Okay.
It's pulling, data from the internet that your competitor could sit down and say, hey, write me a core message about, our organization.
Got it.
And it's going to be generic. ChatGPT can't do one-on-one interviews with your leaders.
So for both big corporations or those who are going to self-direct it, what are the common roadblocks in the process that either your clients or people attempting to do it themselves will likely face or should look out for?
A common roadblock is maybe taking things at face value. If you're at all hesitant to do that, you can't really get to that beauty that's buried within your organization. That's one thing. A roadblock can also be forgetting to bring your leadership along with you throughout this process. Mm-hmm. They're too busy to be involved in the whole thing all along the way.
And why is that? Why is that important? I think we can deduce, but why is that important?
To make sure that your leadership is engaged, because what you don't want to do, or you don't want to get to the end of that process and, present this, beautiful new brand narrative and then turn around to discover that they're doubting it, where'd this come from? You want to make sure that they're part of the process, that you're hearing them out in the beginning, you're kind of touching base with them at certain milestones, so that by the time you bring them that finished or almost finished message platform, what they're thinking is, that seems right on. I'm seeing bits of myself in that. I can, tell they really listened, when they interviewed me or interviewed us.
How often should a company or a ministry or whatever, big or small, redo its messaging?
Yeah, I would say you'd want to take a look back probably every 2 to 3 years. Oh, okay. The world changes faster than it used to.
That's a little shorter than I thought it was going to be, but okay.
Yeah. And, quite honestly, I think in the past, it might have had a longer shelf life, mm-hmm. but I think given the pace of change today, maybe every 2 to 3 years, you want to, bring it out and just ask, yourself, is this still our core story? Does this really represent who we are and how we're different?
Margie, you probably have most, if not all times at the end of the client process, aha moments or moments when you think, yes, we've landed on it. When do you kind of know that, we've landed on the right messaging that's going to do what we need it to do?
I mean, there's in most organizations, there's an approval process that involves probably several different groups. But I think when we begin to start hearing, oh my gosh, that is really truly us. I couldn't quite put my thumb on it, but that's what I think we've all been trying to say, but haven't found the right words to say it. When you start hearing people react in a way that it sounds like them, it fits them, then I think we know that we have landed on it.
Very good. And maybe the final question that we send everyone off with, just a reminder again, why this is worth the effort. Why is it worth pulling your internal leadership team together, holding up, not looking at a 45-minute process, but a multi-day, multi-week process? Why should our listeners here really, really take on seriously the question of looking at their messaging and spending the energy and time on it?
Yeah, if you don't have it together on the inside, it's impossible to have it together on the outside. And the outside is where, you meet with your, potential customers and have an opportunity to win them over. Faith-based organizations, that's where you meet people out in the world and have, the opportunity to influence and improve lives and so forth. And so even though it takes time, it's deep work, it takes a lot of analysis, it is so worth it because you can move faster in a more focused way and get people's attention so that they understand what you can do for them.
I think I'm going to throw you a curveball here, but maybe a good one for all of us to think about. The words in the beginning of the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. the word, it could have been any word choice, but for some reason, Revelation gave us the word. And I wonder, maybe there's a real backhand compliment here to your work, that maybe the word, which you specialize in, might be bigger than we all think. I mean, has it ever entered your mind that the world of words might be on a different level than the world of energy or the world of commerce or the world of whatever? I mean, has it ever dawned on you the reality that the words and the disciplines of words might be really, really important, maybe even philosophically or theologically important? I know I'm coming out of left field with that, but I think it's worth a teasing out here.
I think God knows that we as humans pass along our histories by story. Stories are a way of concisely and memorably passing along good information. God gave us his word in the form of a story. And so, maybe that's part of the reason why we're called to do what we do.
Wow.
Helping people present what they have to offer the world in the form of a story that people can hold on to.
I heard Jeff Cavins, a very well-known Catholic teacher, theologian, say that the reason why you and I, Margie, and everyone in the world are so fascinated by stories is because we're living in the midst of a story and we don't even fully know it. For example, you know those Christmas globes that you shake and you and I look inside the Christmas globe and you and I are looking outside that story in the story. I wonder whether the world of words is sort of the DNA of story, and the reason why we're so pulled into story is because we're actually tapping into something, very deep. We're living a story. So I'm not sure if there's anything there, but interesting, maybe reflections at the end. Well, Margie, I want to thank you for your time. I have zero doubt that you're excellent and your team are excellent at what they do. So Margie and her team put together a document for you. It's called Good Messaging, 10 tips on helping your team develop good messaging. Things like good messaging is clear, differentiating. It provides a foundation for all company communications. It aligns the leaders. It unifies the team. It saves resources. So those are about 5 of the 10 tips in this. You can get this for free. Just look in the show notes below and click on one of the links that references the Good Messaging document. For those in the Catholic world who really love what they do and believe that others should love and know what they do, I see great wisdom in the pragmatic work of really honing in on your message. And it literally could be the difference between someone saying yes or no to any number of big questions of life. So Margie, I want to thank you for taking the time. I actually think that this is big and important stuff. Again, getting one's messaging in one's business on a practical level, but I think it's probably a bigger discipline, a more important discipline than maybe we all realize. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Very good. So maybe a takeaway for those of us who are trying to find that balance of being in the world but not of the world, pursuing the secular because we need to, often just for our own livelihoods, but always doing it with eternity in mind as the ultimate focus. I think teasing out topics like this will be a blessing, God willing, a blessing. And I hope you continue to follow what we're doing. Look in the show notes below and you'll see how you can follow us. We're attempting to thrive in the tension here at the Catholic Entrepreneur Podcast. So we can be a blessing to you, you can be a blessing to the world. Stay with us. Hope to see you with our next episode.